used to have the gym part in the garage. We're rolling now too. So
okay, yeah, let's get it. Okay,
go.
perfect. Hell yeah.
We used to have the gym in the garage, and then I was like, well, I want a studio, and I either have to pay for a studio, right, which is not cheap.
And it's inconvenient. You gotta like.
Then I gotta go somewhere. Yeah. See, but that's a double-edged sword, right? You probably know this because now it's so easy to get to that I don't. Sometimes.
Or you're trying to get back here and they're like, hey, you gotta take out the trash and help me with this real quick.
That's the other problem.
Yeah.
I got my wife calling and say, hey, can you come really quick? Just help me.
You need some bodyguards out there. Just be like, hey, back off, lady.
And then I don't know if you have this, but anytime my wife asks for help, it's never a quick thing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, can you just help me really quick? I just want to take out this wall.
Yeah.
Right here.
Help me real quick. Yeah. We gotta do taxes real fast. What?
So you are this is Chingo Bling, by the way.
Chingo Bling in the building. El Rey de Foreplay, the Ghetto Vaquero, the Tamale Kingpin, the Versace Mariachi.
And I'm told you're here legally.
Yeah. I'm a citizen. I'm a citizen and I don't eat dogs and I was
gonna say, and then do you eat animals? Is this I mean, I'm all of these things.
I probably should up my protein intake. I probably should.
Interesting.
So, but when it comes to the felines and all that.
So, just a little backstory context. We did a podcast that must have been years ago.
Oh yeah, you were a guest on my podcast.
Yeah. And I just so happened to be going through somewhat of a comedian crisis, I don't even know what I call it. I had kind of a weird entry into the comedy world. Mm-hmm. And so as a part of that, I was looking up what's going on at the Improv yesterday. I was like, oh, Chingo's here tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So that's when I texted you and I was like, hey, you're in the area. Yeah. You want to come by and do a thing? And fortunately, now you're free. Okay. So where were you were in Irvine last night?
Yeah, we did Irvine last night. Yeah, we got Ontario tonight, San Diego this weekend. But you totally downplayed your stand-up skills, bro. You're just like, oh, I'm going through this whole stand-up phase.
Well, this is why I'm actually really curious because you did. I'm curious on your insight on this because you did comedy the correct way or the normal way, whatever it is.
Not really, but go on.
Oh no, okay, so cool. So I've been going to open mics for years.
Okay,
right. I don't know if I had mentioned this when I was on your show. I had the luckiest break of all time a couple of years ago because I'd been doing comedy. Kind of mentioned that, not really like it's my main thing. And then Matt Walsh,
yeah,
was late for an event. And I just happened to be walking by the room and Charlie Kirk says, hey, Matt's an hour late. Can you go up on stage and kill 20 minutes?
But Charlie Kirk already knew you.
Yeah, I was working with him doing like political commentary stuff.
But he's like, now you got to talk for 20 minutes to kill time.
Yeah. And we'll do stand-up effectively.
Wait, did he say for an hour or 20 minutes?
Matt was an hour late, and then so they delayed something, and then they put somebody else on stage, and then they put me on stage, and just delay until Matt gets here. Mm-hmm. And so I did 20 minutes. It went from my biggest crowd was 15 people in an open mic who weren't paying attention, because people in open mics don't pay attention.
Yeah, it's just comics.
And then it went from that to 2,500 people for 20 minutes.
Wow.
There was no in between there.
Okay.
And then so I took that footage and started marketing stuff. And so now I've never done a comedy club. I've gone with friends, but I've never played a comedy club. And so I've been doing like smaller theaters, smaller venues. And the other day I had this maybe I should do the comedy club thing. Try and go in that way. So I was that's how I got to looking at Ontario. Yeah. I was like, when do they do their open mics? I don't even know when that is. And that's when I saw you. But what's your unconventional way of getting through it?
Yeah, so I've been in show business for about 20 years. So I started fresh out of college radio doing underground, mixtape, parody, rap. If I had to kind of
music.
Yeah. So I'm more from like a rap, like a Texas rap, underground, but a funny angle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had this whole get up. Some would call it a shtick. You know what I mean? But it's. I knew you had to. You got in rap, man. You got it's fashion, style, and being original. That's a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
And I always looked up to very flamboyant, type of hip hop characters, whether it was like Slick Rick, Andre 3000, like Biz Markie, just Flavor Flav, Ghostface Killer. I just took notes from all that, and I created my Chingo Bling persona, which was like baggy shorts, cowboy boots, Nike swoosh, grill, cowboy hat, kind of that whole vibe.
Yeah.
To stand out. And went on to go on MTV. They did a quick punchline about me on SNL one time.
Really?
Yeah, but like a lot of hip hop magazine, like write-ups. Record labels are calling, including I had offers by a lot of record labels, including the Diddler himself. Yes, P. Diddy. I only attended a handful of parties. We can get into that. Yeah, stay to the end.
You never got to any islands?
No, those are the cool parties. Like that's if you signed, but I never signed, so I wasn't a victim or a witness. He didn't take me shopping. Mm-hmm. So I did that for many, many years, just like running around chasing like show business and the hip hop dream. And then about 10 years ago, exactly, I had an opportunity to kind of pivot a little bit and stick my toe in the stand-up comedy world. And really just, the reason I say unconventional is because I was having to learn and bomb and do open mics and like put together shows and different amateur type lineups with people knowing, a lot of people knowing who I was. So a lot of people in the audience were like, oh, that's Chingo Bling, the rapper from Houston. And but you're up there like a white belt, green open micer in essence.
Yeah.
So that was the unconventional part. But I've been doing stand-up ever since. I've been focused on that past 10 years. I just had my 10-year anniversary. I love the game. I love the art form. I really appreciate it.
So this is a theory that I have. As far as comics go, or comedians go, I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth here. I'm trying to word this in a way that makes sense. I have come to understand that in a lot of ways, it's less about the material specifically and all about the comfortability and delivery of it. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I feel like that's a very fair assessment because delivery, like style, attitude, energy, confidence. Like, for example, if someone goes on stage and bombs with a joke, like it just falls flat, like a skilled comedian or somebody who has like a delivery and it just puts more oomph behind it, puts more sauce on it, could take that same half-ass joke that didn't work and pull it off. Yeah. Be like, okay, here, let me show you how it's done. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel that, you just got to be careful of like, you don't ever want to be labeled one of those comics that's like, he doesn't say funny stuff. He just says them in a funny way. And that's like that's like a jab that they throw at successful comics sometimes. Like, oh, he's not that funny. He just says it in a funny way. But there's a lot to be said about delivery. And like, for example, you familiar with Ralph Barboza?
Yeah.
His delivery is so like
unique.
Him. Yeah, it's so him and unique. And I've seen him. I've worked with him before, but I've seen him tell the story where I think somebody where he arrived at the idea of like, slow it down a little bit. And I'm like, damn, I've never heard Ralph fast. I've always seen this version of Ralph, like since I've known him. And so that's powerful, dude, because his delivery is his it's like his brand, his logo, and people love that.
It's interesting coming from you came from rap into comedy. I came in from political commentary to comedy. And what I had always noticed was that there would be political speakers giving
I know what
speeches.
You meant. Yeah. I'm a speaker.
They would say a joke that's funny, and I'd be like back in the back, that's funny, and then they would run right over it. They wouldn't let anybody laugh. Yeah. And part of the delivery component is allowing people to get it, register it, think that it's funny, and then laugh. But if you say something funny and then just immediately go into the next thing, no, you don't. It's not going to work.
Absolutely. I actually gave that advice to an up and coming comedian last night, where it was like, "Hey man, more or less where your funny parts are. I was like, recognize that and listen intently to the audience and kind of slow down. And because the audience's pace and their speed as a listener is different than you trying
know
to
it.
just, and I'm not gonna lie, like I have the tendency to kind of just like, you know, it's like, I only got 45 minutes, brother. You know, I'm going to cram 115 minutes of just fire material. And sometimes I got to kind of like, all right, bro, like knock it down a gear. But I roll with nothing but killers. So like all my features and hosts and everybody, they're coming out, beating up the crowd. So sometimes I kind of feel like, okay, I got to kind of keep that same
Yeah,
energy,
that same interesting
pace.
You only do 45 minutes, or what?
Well,
Like in a specific, you're talking about in a specific.
Yeah,
like,
well, like
setting.
for my headliner set, like I mean,
Okay.
I try not to be Mr. Marathon. Like, all right, everybody, hunker down. You know, I know it's a Wednesday night. I know you're not babysitters, but we're gonna be here for a minute. So yeah, like I not to mention too. I also do. Well, my uncle, he looks just like me, but with a mullet. He does a guest spot, so he could probably do 15. A lot of times he'll do anywhere.
gotcha.
It just depends on how many people we have. So I'm already up there doing 15, and then I go back, change, get ready, my features up, and then they bring me back up. So boom, I can easily do like another hour on top of that. But a lot of times, like I'll have a musical guest at the end, so I try to keep it at 45. We're gonna rap at the end. We're doing a song, you know.
Yeah,
So we like to, you know, mix it up.
I gotcha. So how did you then get from the comedy stuff? You talk about the news of the day quite a bit. Also, that's a nice way of saying politics, but people get turned off by politics.
That's how you got to sugarcoat it.
The news of the day, the current events, the
Headlines.
happenings around the world. What are those things? How did that happen?
How did I get into politics?
Your podcast is the red pill tamales.
Yeah.
So how did that? Well, so clearly that's a delineation of which side things are going towards. How did that happen?
Well, dude, interesting thing. You know, I grew up Blue City, you know, Houston, Texas, public school, and I feel like my indoctrination really began at prep school in New Jersey, like expensive. Private. I was like Mr. Free Ride, like scholarship kid, But they kind of had like these one teacher in particular. You know, I hung out with like all minority kids because we just had more in common. We like the same music. We're from like big cities and stuff like that. And this one teacher in particular, she was like, you know, fresh out of college and just Marxist AF.
I'm gonna change the world.
Super Marxist, bro. Like everything's victim. Like we're gonna learn about this stuff, and little by little, it's like, oh, I didn't know it then, but it's like, wow, they're really teaching me to like think of everything as oppression and you know proletariat and all this crap, bourgeoisie, all this crap. And then I go into college. I guess you could consider it private liberal arts. Trinity University in San Antonio had a sociology professor in one of my classes, and hardcore Marxist, bro, like hardcore. And she was trying to recruit me into the sociology department because I knew all the answers, right? Like I knew what she wanted.
Got it.
People to say. I'll give you a couple quick examples. So, she was like, so based on the definition of a gang, what's the largest gang in America? And everyone, you know, all the kids are like scratching their head. I was like, the police. And she's like, yes, absolutely correct. And then she's like, according to the definition of a gang, the police are a gang. And all the kids are like, what? They're all like, what are my parents? What are y'all saying? It didn't make any sense. But I knew that was the right answer for that teacher.
In her part, yeah.
So that's where a lot of my indoctrination came about. And then when I got into my music stuff, my rap days, I think it was starting to build up into election year. So it might have been like 06 or something. I think Obama was about to step on the scene. And of course, like Fox News, I was seeing all this rhetoric, which I thought was just scapegoating Latinos and Latino immigrants and Mexicans. And so I took it upon myself because I was looking for an album title, right? I had this album that had to come out. And I was like, oh, this is like perfect inspiration. I'm going to call it they can't deport us all. And it's gonna like we had a billboard or two. I mean, we had a rap vehicle, we had like a taco truck with the slogan on the side, t-shirts, just all black, the words in white. Like I was, I'm an artist, right?
Yeah,
I'm an
yeah.
artist. And at the time I was trying to be polarizing. And I was inspired by Shepard Fairey, the guy who made the like Obey.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like super lefty, and he's like, oh, Kamala Harris, change forward, whatever. but I was very inspired by his Andre the Giant stickers. If y'all know about that, but look into it. He used to work at a print shop, and he made these stickers says Andre the Giant has a posse, and it didn't make any sense. And it was very punk rock, but he just made a bunch of stickers and people took it upon themselves, and it turned into this organic thing, and it grew into this thing.
Yeah.
And fast forward, he becomes Shepard Fairey, this huge thing. So I made this slogan, they can't deport us all, very polarizing. And so that, unfortunately, that kind of like became my identity for a while. So I was borderline an activist. I was like borderline turning into a damn activist.
This is okay. I'm curious to hear where this goes, but also it's interesting that you say that. Like I kind of got not forced upon me, but I accidentally became this thing that I wasn't necessarily trying to be. Or were you trying to be that?
Well, I wasn't trying to be an activist, but there, looking back, there is a little bit of pandering, a little bit.
But the check's cleared.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of like, you're an underground independent artist, and this is like a really cool way to like kind of make some noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get noticed and all that. But in hindsight, obviously, once my stance changed, once I kind of started really looking into things and, around the lockdowns and the pandemic, I guess maybe I had time to figure out like what the hell's going on. And I started learning about how like the media lies through omission and how they were just creating hoaxes and how biased they were. And I was like, oh snap, I never noticed the propaganda like in America because we're in it. It's almost like you have to go to other countries to be like, wow, dude, y'all are being played, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And so, of course, I caught a ton of backlash because a lot of my fans were like, bro, you stabbed us in the back. And the narrative became, this is what people this narrative got assigned to them from like these Latino Instagram pages like Fools Gone Wild.
Yeah.
Where I did a live stream. This is in 2020. Where I was kind of borderline endorsed, very, I was not kind of endorsing, but just
tiptoeing.
very soft on Trump. Like, hey guys, no new wars. Like trying to like give people the medicine with a little bit of honey. And I finished the live stream in my garage. I go inside the house, and my wife's like, "Wow, you're back there for a while. Like, how'd it go?" I was like, "Yeah, I just kind of, just talked about a lot of stuff." And she's like, okay, so you didn't say anything that might get misconstrued or anything, right? And I was like, nah, someone would literally have to take the time, go in, zoom in, splice out, take out of context, compile it. And I was like, who's gonna do that? Next morning, my phone is blowing up. They're like, bro, you're on Fools Gone Wild. You're on all these pages. And I look at it, and it made me look really bad because it's just like no context. It's like me wearing this huge sombrero mariachi because I was back there kicking it, and I was
just hanging out.
And I was just like, I did this thing where I'm like, this is all the Democrats have to do. I was like, every time they're running, they're just like, all right, we're going to San Antonio. We're gonna bring out whoever, Hillary, and bring some mariachis. And I was like, oh look, there's a sombrero in the corner, and I went and put it on, and I started acting out this thing. So now there's these clips on Fools Gone Wild with me wearing a sombrero, basically saying like, hey, 4 more years and, no new wars. And so the narrative became Chingo Bling has secretly hated immigrants all along. And he's finally out of the Trump closet. And they can't deport us all and all that stuff to exploit us and, snake oil salesman, backstabber. Latinos are bad when it comes to labels. So they'll be like coconut, they hit you hard. They're like, malinche. What else, Raph? Malinche, coconut. whitewashed. All you Texas fools are the same. All y'all want to be white with y'all's Republican ways. Y'all worse than the Florida Cubans, bro. They hit me with everything.
Interesting.
So I had to like try and clear my name. I didn't apologize. I didn't fold. I didn't bend. I didn't budge. I was just like, hey, I said what I said, and
So there's this age-old saying, obviously, that all press is good press, and obviously that was not good press. But was that a good thing or a bad thing? Because people get all upset, like, oh, Media Matters took a thing that I said or an article and blew it up. Okay, well, it also got to 100,000 more people than I was already reaching. Yeah. So, like in your case, was that a good thing that you were on those pages getting kind of lambasted?
Well,
ultimately,
overall, it was all great and magnificent because it's so much better to be transparent and honest, and pushing something that like for example, whether it's America first, strong economy, masculinity, like family, being a father, being a man, holding yourself accountable, self-reliant, being a good husband, being a good dad, like all those things are great. It's just a mature thing. I just turned 45. So sure, it kind of sucks that people that don't know you just assume and run with a narrative, but absolutely.
When's the biggest time you remember bombing at a show?
Oh man.
Like what's the one that stands out of like, oh, this
in
was
music
bad.
Or in comedy?
How do you bomb? How do you bomb at music?
Easy. So
I know you can be bad at it, but that's you're bad at it, and if you don't know, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
There's scenarios like one time I was performing in Mexico in music, and it was like an outdoor thing. It was like a free festival, I believe. They're all waiting on the headliner. Mm-hmm. They throw me up, and I was already kind of like phasing out of my music days. Like I wasn't really that into it that much. I was like really starting to pivot. So the songs that I chose for my set, like some of it had auto tune, and these kids were all like backpack Mexico, like we want lyrics. Like I don't want to hear any auto tune, nothing that sounds commercial, like no, not those kind of samples. And like there might have been a little bit too much English, not enough Spanish, and they were just impatient. So like one dude throws a water bottle. One dude throws a water bottle, and I was like, "Ha, you missed me!" Like in Spanish. And then like now his friends, like they're all yelling stuff, and it's really just one little section. But yeah, that's an example of bombing.
So that's fascinating because I guess I must have discounted the fact that sometimes you go play in front of people who don't know what to expect. So my wife and I play music. We play music at our well, I was a musician first, and then I was a political person. Now I'm a comedian. And still all kind of the same thing. But whenever I was playing music, people knew what they were getting, and if they didn't know what they were getting, they weren't there. And so it was really difficult to suck at it or to get booed, at least in my experience, because there weren't opportunities for it because people already knew the songs. They already liked even if you missed a couple notes, like it is fine. But in the comedy world, night to night, you don't know what's going to happen. And, you gradually form material that can be pretty reliable. But at the end of the day, it could go really good or really bad, and there's no knowing. In music, I always felt like, you're going to play the concert as long as you don't, your voice doesn't crack 15 times, it's going to be fine. Whereas, you go into a comedy venue, it's...
Well, I bombed in comedy as well, in Mexico. I was attempting comedia en español, estandupero, I was attempting to do stand-up. I was like, I'm going to do Spanish stand-up too, and I'm about to have another lane. Dude, I'm going to tour Mexico. I was like, honey, what are we going to do? My wife's my tour manager, so I'm like, I don't know, maybe 6 months in America, 6 months in Mexico, because this is going to go great. So we did, this is a funny story. I'll tell it as quickly as I can. Night number one, we performed in Monterrey, the level of preparation I had at the time was just kind of like translate the bits that I had in English and kind of translating them, not really factoring in like cultural translation, that type of thing.
Well, just even from a sentence structure, right? If you put different parts of the sentence in different places, the punchlines get kind of mixed up. So how did that go? Just translating just language before you talk about culture.
Yeah, I think okay, so language even before context and culture.
Is it possible?
I feel like my buddy Raph, he could probably like tell you more off air about this because he's like he really does Spanish. I attempted it, but I feel like even before sentence structure, when it comes to like Mexicans, I feel like they really appreciate a very fluid, natural. Like you can't bull them with your delivery.
Yeah.
Like if it's not very like fluid and natural and like, hey, we're shooting the shit and I'm holding court.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't come across as that, it's like, who are you? We don't trust you. Like, what are you doing? I think that's a big part. So I do my bits as best as I can in Spanish, and half the room is not laughing. Half the room is. I get off stage. Some of the non-laughing people, they approach me, and they're like, "Hey, when are you gonna come back and do a show in English?" And I was like, "You wanted the show to be in English?" I was like, "We're in Mexico." I was like, "So where are you from?" He's like, "We're from Texas," and I was like. Oh, vacation. He's like, no, deportation. All these people were born in Mexico, grew up in America, and somehow got deported. So now they're like living in Mexico, but they're kind of American.
Yeah.
But they're like Chingo Bling fans from America. So they wanted a taste from home, and they didn't get that. So I couldn't please them.
Well, I feel like that's like you got to then delineate. You got to have the late show is the English show, the early show is the Spanish show.
Smart, yeah, that's what I should have did.
It just didn't work.
And then the next night we went to another city, and my cousins were in the crowd, and they were the ones heckling me. Like my female cousins are like, "We don't get it. Like, finish the story. Like that doesn't make sense." It's like, lady.
Or I was there. You're telling it wrong.
Yeah.
No, she was wearing the high heels.
Yeah, because one of my jokes at the time was about my wife giving birth at home, and one of like the punchlines was like, and I had to make sure that my sister-in-law didn't find out when she was about to go into labor because she tells everybody everything, and before you know it, there's someone's kids are in the baby pool for the delivery. That's a birth pool, and so why are they barbecuing? Y'all letting in smoke? Why is there a DJ here? Like it's a super old joke, and it would get a lot of pops because I'm just painting this picture, and the DJ's playing Salt and Pepper, push it, push it, and my wife's in the birth pool, and I'm trying to do all this in Spanish in Mexico, and they're like, there's the cultural thing where they're just kind of like, what's wrong with your family being present at a home birth?
Oh.
And it's like, that's weird to us in America. They're like, yeah, but in Mexico, families very united and home births are not frowned upon. And I'm just like,
interesting.
It's like, you had to be there, I think.
Well, yeah, it's not, you're making a joke about something that
like the
is
irony.
normal. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, so in America,
funny.
In America, it works because it's like, isn't it ironic and like absurd as to what I'm describing? And over there, they're like, where's the funny part?
This is normal. What are you going to teach me to put my shoes on next?
Yeah.
Dang, that's funny. Yeah. I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Yeah, it landed so flat.
Well,
bro.
do you still do Spanish comedy?
Hell no. They taught me not to
because it doesn't work.
But I'm not gonna lie. I the first time I did comedy in español was in LA, and I think it was only like a 10-minute set. It was like my buddy like Jesus Trejo and some of the people. What's his name? Fabias. What's his name? Do you know the guys that Jesus Trejo works with? It's like two other guys, Compian, or just like Chilean. Yeah, Francisco, like just Chilean dude and all these other cats. And I went up there and did like 10 minutes, and it went great. I was confident. I was pretty confident in my Spanish. The crowd was amazing. I think it was just the fact that like we were in America and.
Well, I wonder if you do the Spanish shows in the U.S. All of the cultural stuff is there.
It'll kill.
But then too, it's also just like there's a supply problem. Like, I'm sure there's a ton of demand for Spanish comedy in the U.S. But Who's doing it?
Well,
I mean, there might be more people doing it than I
they're
think.
killing it. So what
They
it
are.
is,
Okay.
what it is you have like these huge stand-up comics from Latin America, many from Mexico. For example, Franco Escamilla from Monterrey. He'll go sell out. What is he selling out? Arenas, theaters. What is it? Like he don't do clubs. It's arenas.
Dang.
Yeah, and he'll come out with his guitar. He just holds court and just does.
So there's already people in that lane.
Oh, bro. Yeah, trust me. I had my eye on that lane, bro. That's why you think I went to Mexico to tell jokes. Because I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to show you how this is done. This is an American art form. Get ready, Mexicans.
Interesting.
So what happened is stand-up comedians in America, like whether it's like your Russell Peters and like just all these people, they uploaded their stuff to YouTube. And then people from around the world got a hold of it. So in Mexico, there was this rich history of joke telling and like Polo Polo, he's more like a storyteller. It's not exactly American stand-up setup punch, but there's obviously humor. There's comedic actors. There's, series, and there's all kind of comedians, right? But not really stand-up. So once these kids in Mexico, like, is it Carlos Beltran? Is that his name? The long-haired kid? Oh, Vallarta. Carlos Vallarta. Like all these kids, I call them kids, right? From Mexico, started studying Mitch Hedberg and just going down their little rabbit holes and finding their voice. And next thing you know, there's like these, like the Comedy Cellar version of Mexico City. Comedy Central has an office in Mexico City. They have production down there, dog.
Really?
They're signing people getting deals. There's like female comedians. They're on TV. They're touring Latin America, anywhere they speak Spanish.
So how did you get into the comedy? So I thought you kind of just went through the kind of the standard, you work the door, you get to be, but you didn't do any of that. I didn't do any of that.
I don't work doors.
Yeah. Well, you didn't do any of that. I didn't do any of that. And I'm fascinated by that world because I can, and I don't mean to sound egotistical. I'm just saying what is. From what I do on the internet / TV shows, I can sell tickets. Mm-hmm. What I can't do is get comedy clubs to let me sell tickets to their venues. And so
you gotta talk to my wife, man.
maybe
get you in there.
Yeah, maybe should also be my manager. But so I do like smaller theaters, but we got a 700 seater in Montana at the end of the month. And it's good, but I am now to the point where now I'm looking up like, okay, the actual comedy clubs where like real comics get developed. I want to go do that because I kind of got this weird jump start that kind of, and I'm thankful for it. I'm not upset about it.
Yeah, don't apologize for it. Yeah.
But like I've never done a full set at a club where not everybody knows who I am. You know what I mean? I went immediately from open mics to 400 seats doing an hour. And there was nothing in between. And I think that I've missed something. I don't know what it is, but there's this intangible like longing to go like, okay, I should do things the right way and kind of go back.
Yeah, it's still there. And next time I'm in this neck of the woods, you're more than welcome. Come hop on stage with us.
Well, so my problem is I've reached out to a bunch of comedy clubs, and it is I don't know how to get through that door. And so how did you get that kind of without working your way through the ranks? Now, obviously, you're popular in the music thing, but how did that transition into the clubs?
Yeah, very good question because it was interesting how it happened for me. So like I mentioned, I was already doing music. I already kind of had a following, had some name recognition, like some credits or whatever, somewhat of a backstory. So by the time I starting to pursue stand-up comedy, just like as an amateur, really, an opportunity came up to where I was just doing like shows in Texas where it'd be like a buddy producing a show and be like, hey man, we'll put you on, like, you want, oh man, I'm just learning, bro. He's like 15, stuff like that. All right, is it cool? We put you on the flyer. Yeah, that's cool. Can I sell merch? All right, bet, So I did like El Paso with my buddy, my boy Frank Lopez. He produced another show like in San Antonio. I was like, this was like perfect, He was cutting his teeth, producing events. I was getting some stage time. So it was a cool exchange. So then the opportunity came up to perform and basically headline San Jose Improv. This was through another comedian who like knew the manager, is like already kind of knew he featured for a lot of people. So he's like, hey bro, I can get you in San Jose. Do you want to do it? But at the time, I didn't know how any of the deal structure worked with the clubs and the door deal.
I still don't.
Yeah,
know how
I could tell you about some of that.
Yeah,
I can tell you about some of that. So I went to do San Jose Improv, and it was like, I don't know what it was, a Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
It was like sold out. It was something super off day. Like might have been a Sunday night, Monday. I don't know what it was.
And it sold out.
Sold out. And then they're like, hey, the guy from Ontario Improv is asking if, and I'm like, where's that? You know, it's by LA. Seeing if you want to do that. Like, I think it was like a few days later, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, all right. Went down, same thing. Boom. Gangbusters. Sold out. I was like, oh, and next thing you know, I'm getting a call from Levity Live, the people who own a lot of the improvs. And they're like, it was a lady named Judy Brown. She manages like Sebastian Maniscalco, all these people. She's like, who the hell are you? Who's your agent? Do you live in LA? What's your home club? I was like, I don't even know what home club is.
I don't even know what that is.
They're like, Houston Improv, that's not your home club? I was like, I don't know.
I've been there.
I was like, I just did San Jose and Ontario, and now I'm here. And that's kind of how the rest is history, because that's where it all kind of began, of tapping into the clubs to where before you know it, you're doing like Atlanta Comedy Theater, and then the gentleman who owns that, Gary, he's like, hey, you want to do Memphis? I can hook you up with Chuckles. And he's like, hey, you ever done like Tacoma? And it's like, so now
just now kind of this web that gets built.
Yeah, so then the folklore grows of like for example, there's an interview, the owner of Off the Hook Comedy Club in Naples, Florida, Captain Brian, there's a clip of him doing a podcast on YouTube, and they ask him, they're like, is there anybody that's like really popping that just goes crazy and like maybe people have never heard of? He's like, Chingo Bling. And because it was crazy, because the clubs, especially in the beginning, you know, I'm not saying I've cooled off or anything, but like in the beginning, it was just this like novelty thing. Yeah. And it'd be like the club in Wichita calling Tulsa. It was like a scene out of like Back to the Future with like the band and and he's just like, hey man, you guys got Chingo. You guys got Chingo tomorrow. You know, it's like, yeah. Hey, I can't talk right now, but get more beer. And they're like, we've got plenty of beer. No, get more beer. Get more. And they like hang up type thing.
So I'm really curious. This is a roundabout way of getting to this. I in like college and high school would produce like these different events. So I was already familiar with the event space. That's kind of how that translated.
Sounds like you were throwing
like,
parties.
That's effectively it. No, that's effectively it. And so there was this one venue, I think in Fullerton, that we were bringing like, I want to say 500 to 600 people into this venue on Thursday nights. Wow. It was a college night. And the venue had a Saturday night event that they had too. And it was always a mariachi group, and they might have had 200 to 250 people.
They're going to say too much tequila.
Well, so they had 250 people there. And so I would ask the owner, hey, can we swap? Like, I could pull a crowd on a Saturday. Like, you already seen what we're doing on Thursday. I can pull a crowd on a Saturday. And he would never switch. And I'd be like, why can't we boot this mariachi group? And he's like, they bring in 200, 250 people, but they drink. They drink and drink and drink and drink. And your college kids are poor. Yeah. They're there. There's a bunch. There's a couple hundred there.
Up on a budget. Excuse my language.
But they're poor. Yeah. And these hardworking Latinos come in on their day off and they drink. And so he's like,
their check.
I make with half the people, I make twice as much money as you.
Crazy,
on Thursday or on Saturday than I do with you on Thursday.
I think my drinking crowd, I might have lost a lot of them when I went red pill tamales, when I went political. Okay. I don't know. I got a little bit more mature, responsible people now. Nah.
Well, but I wonder, you think that's why the clubs loved you?
Bottom line, I think that's a big factor, bro. Like if they're saying, if they're trying to get creative,
like, dude, I just made $5,000 at the bar on a Wednesday. What's going on?
No, I mean, think about it. Like, I was so new to this whole world that I didn't know it was weird that like I'm in the green room and I'm seeing them pull up in the parking lot with grocery carts. Like, why are there grocery? Like, I guess they're like, no, we ran out. We had to go do a beer run at the grocery store right now, type of thing. It's like, wait, don't y'all got to go through TABC? Like, I don't know how that works, like a distributor or something. And so yeah, that's got to play a big factor. If it's like, nah, when Chingo Bling or somebody like that, they're ordering buckets or they're ordering rounds and rounds of buckets and they're taking shots and they're just feeling good, having a good time, celebrating, spending money, tipping well. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Like I hear it all the time. Like the staff is like, oh my God, your crowd's so great. Like, oh my God, like we love working your night. Like they'll fight. If it's a packed night, you know, if it's a night where it's like, it's a little light, then, you know, it's like, but the hot markets where it's a weekend and it's like packed and I've just got some momentum at the time or something. This wait staff is always like, we love working your night. Like we fight over the shifts to, you know, Chingo Bling. Like, cause honestly, like if a waiter, waitress, somebody, if they're working a whole weekend to like a packed, sold out weekend, they're doing good. They're gonna catch up on some bills and stuff.
Yeah. When you have a pretty heavy, well, let me say this. Have you ever done any Latinx jokes?
I like might have attempted it for like once or twice, but not really.
I'm wondering if this proves a point. Like if your audience thinks it's funny, I feel like that would prove the point that this is laughed into absurdity. I don't know. Is that
no, but to your point, yes, like that's where like, see, the thing is this, you know how people say Latinos have no idea that they're really conservative culturally.
Oh, 100%.
But they vote for these blue city problems. Like they want to make everything Seattle type of thing, right? And it's like, why do y'all keep voting for Seattle type policies? But you're about going to church and family and abuelita and all this stuff. And there's just a huge disconnect. So the Latinx thing or Latinx, whatever it's called, when it is mentioned, like I know a couple of comics that they'll have like a little joke about it. But yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, what is that? Like, yeah, why are they like, and it's like, it's the left trying to just label.
Huh.
It just doesn't get to them. It doesn't really compute all the time. But a lot of times I think people are so busy like just working, and then the news and the media in this country doesn't really cover the real stuff. So I feel like people just kind of go through life autopilot and just don't really pay too much attention to that kind of stuff. They're just like, yeah, it's just a term and I don't really know what it means. Anyway, and they're just going about their day.
What do you talk about? I mean, what's your kind of niche?
My material?
Yeah.
I talk a lot about, family, wife, like relationship, my daughters, and like me trying to man up, be a tough guy, like just trying to be like a dad, but like I'm not tough. You know, it's like all daughters, nothing but estrogen. Like I'm little.
You lose every argument in the house.
Yeah, it's one of those. I talk a little bit about like back in my young days, you know, when I was ratchet. So it covers the gamut. You know.
Gotcha. I've noticed. So I'm in terms of selling tickets, right? I'm a business person first. You got to fill the room, and if you're taking a risk and nobody buys tickets, I'm out money. But I kind of have a gimmick, right? The political gimmick, right? This is the Star-Spangled Banter Freedom Comedy Tour,
nice.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I noticed as I've been doing this, couple years, I haven't put out a special, so I don't need to revamp all that often. But
Good.
a bunch of material goes out the door, new material comes in, and a bunch of the new material is not inherently political at all. So I got a big segment of it where it's like, all right, we're going to make fun of Joe Biden. We're going to make fun of Kamala. We're going to do all these things. But the new stuff that kind of filter in, it's not at all political. But for some reason, it still fits in the political show. And I'm trying to figure out why that is.
I wonder, well, I guess I got to hear like more of what exactly it is you're talking about. But I get a sense that, number one, they know who you are. They know your voice. And they hear you talk, on your podcast. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a familiar, soothing thing. So it's like, we're here for you. it's hey honey, like it's the guy that I watch on the YouTube, and he's here. So they're just like, give us what you got, talk to us type of thing. I think that's a big part of it. And then perhaps maybe some of the subject matter that you talk about, it fits into a conservative, I guess, frame. Meaning, if you talk about like, my wife, she does this thing, and it's relatable. I mean, I don't know if it's like wholesome or anything, but it's like, you're not like, yeah, so after our 5th abortion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, no, it still fits. He's not talking about abortions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how that works. I'm also trying to figure out where like comedy goes in this like AI world. And I've just tinkered around with it. The ChatGPT thing or Twitter's Grok thing. I'll be like, hey, I'll send it a story and say, make a joke about this. And they're not like super funny, but some of them, they can like pass on like an SNL Weekend Update funny type thing. And so I don't know. What do you think happens if AI gets to become as funny as you?
Well, I don't underestimate AI at all, right? But I am team human, and I just have to hope that as an individual, as a human, you're going to have to provide something that they can't. You know what I mean? Like AI can do damn near everything. It could do a ton of stuff, right? It could make songs and pictures and art, give you 10 renditions in 5 seconds. So I almost have to feel like, okay, I'm going to have to do and be like what you can't. I'm just going to have to be like more human, whatever that is. Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we all just got to have to find like something that just is so, it's kind of a hard thing to answer, but like something that's just so innately you that it just can't be, there can't be like a AI substitute for what you do.
Well, I wonder if this might be a bad analogy, but like if it comes to like a food where, for some reason, the machine making a hamburger is weird to me. It's the same thing. It tastes the same. Yeah. It is like just as bad for you or delicious, whatever you want to say, as the human, but it's just weird. And I wonder if that goes away or if that just persists and you just, I don't know, I want a human making food. I don't know.
You sound very robophobic.
Correct. I am.
But what is it about like the robot? Have you had a robot made burger?
But I've thought
the
about
idea,
it. The idea about it.
So what comes to mind to me is like, it's like I just need I don't know if it's like a big sweaty dude flipping it, you know what I mean? But like versus like a very clinical, sterile clinical type of thing.
So you live in Texas.
Yes, sir.
So you're probably very familiar with barbecue. Barbecue is one of those things to me where like, if it is a science, which a lot of people, it's kind of a mix between art and science. But if getting the perfect tenderness to a tri-tip is in fact a science, then a robot can figure it out and make it as good
or better
as the pit master. But it's not, and it never will be, at least in my mind. If there's not some sweaty dude dripping sweat into the brisket,
stayed up all night,
who's like shoveling it in and out and doing all the things that make it, for some reason it's different, and it could taste exactly the same. But if I know that it's different in my head, for some reason I like the human component more. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know if that's gonna stick around long term. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think when you said art and science or art versus science, that's interesting because from the scientific side, like you said, on the barbecue end, robot can perfectly calculate, like add more pellets, you know what I mean? Like it'll like 100 and however many degrees, it'll like do whatever it has to do perfectly. But when you talk about like the art of it, it's almost like, could maybe a little bit of human error add to it? Barbecue is a great example, man. That's interesting. Because a pitmaster is an artist,
Oh yeah. When I think too, there's like minor intangible adjustments you see comedians make on stage where like, all right, that joke is a scientifically good joke, but there's an art to delivering it. Maybe the room is different. Maybe the audience is a little bit older, and it's the same
right
thing.
There.
Yeah, and it's just that little tiny
someone
artistic...
coughed and sneezed, and you had to kind of wait, and
Yeah,
the heckler's about to say something, but you got to beat him to the punch so that they hear you, not him. Yeah, it's a very like finesse.
Do you get hecklers much?
Nah, we tend to get like overly excited fans who
so not hecklers,
who
but
think they're helping. Where they're just in the front, they're like, woo! And you're like, I'm in the middle of the story, bro.
This is a rhetorical performance. This is not a conversation.
Exactly.
Dang.
And then what? I know that's right. It's like, bro, you're just not understanding how this works.
And how do you handle that? Because it's different. Like a heckler is easy because then you just get to trash. Not easy, but you have, all right. How do you handle somebody that's too excited to see you?
It's an art. It's a very delicate finesse. Like, I have to always keep in mind, like, be patient. Don't lose your cool, right? Because the audience might not even hear what they're saying, or they don't see their annoying ass face. Yeah. They're just seeing you getting overworked, So like, keep your cool, and also make sure there's no water in the boat. Meaning like, not too much setup. Like, get to the funny, because if they're too busy laughing, they can't interject. So now it's like, okay, I'm calling an audible. We're going over here with it. Boom, boom, boom. We got them going. We got them laughing. And now you're whatever attention you wanted. Yeah. The crowd is just, instead of it turning into this, what's your problem, man? Can't you see I'm up here? And then the crowd's like, what's going on? And now it just feeds into it. Yeah. The show goes derailed, and now you're pissed. And is there a security here? What's going on?
When you were so you've gone from different components of art, or different genres of art, I guess, like music to comedy to commentary to comedy. Mm-hmm. The biggest bomb I've ever had, I was at a conference, a Turning Point conference, and the speaking order was like me and, I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the guy's name. The guy who runs Breitbart, and then Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. And so that was the lineup. Without really thinking of the dynamic of, like, Charlie specifically being a really intense political speaker, I went up and did stand up for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I was done with my material in 13.
Oh. You went that fast?
So no laughs. Just like no laughs. And I realized it was, in hindsight, after I got off the stage and finished cleaning up the puddle of sweat that had accumulated because of how bad this was.
Pick up your dignity.
Yeah, and apologize to everybody for, like, I realized, well, it was because this is one of the most intelligent speakers coming after you, and you're up here making trans jokes for which you thought was going to be 30 minutes and ended up being way less than that. Well, like, it just wasn't the right context. And so I've had to juggle all right, put on the comedian hat, put on the commentator hat. And now when I go do Turning Point stuff, this is not a stand-up show. Like, this is a speech, or this is a discussion, whatever it is. It's not stand-up. And if it is stand-up, we're going to bill it entirely as stand-up through the marketing and everything. Did you ever have any, like, difficulty with the crossover from, like, the music fans, or did they always know, okay, well, this is Chingo, but it's now a comedy show?
Oh man, what comes to mind? I got booked to speak, but
okay, but it was a speech.
Kind of, but it's like, but do your thing, like be funny, like entertain, right? So it was like an awards dinner ceremony put together by Texas Latino conservatives, and Governor Abbott was there, and he was gonna probably receive some kind of like award or something, but he was definitely like special guest in the house. That's like, dude, Governor Abbott is here, bro, and I'm up there and I'm killing. You know what I mean? I'm up there just like hitting them with material, and people are just laughing. the biggest intimidating thing is that it was like daytime, nice dinner,
Yeah.
like a museum type setting, and it's very political
Suit and tie,
and
yeah.
very very proper. And I'm up there just being the funny guy, but just seeing like Governor Abbott like laughing and kind of like looking around and like seeing how it was working and seeing me and hearing what I was saying, like this youngish Mexican guy who used to be super on the left is like making some funny points and making light, because politics could be real tense and ugly and bitter and a lot of infighting type of thing. So I'm out there doing my thing, and then he speaks at the end, and he says one of the things he says, he gave me props. He mentioned my name like 2-3 times, and he says at one point, he's like, and the Democrats, they've got this and they control that, but we've got Chingo Bling. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, we've got Chingo Bling, and it just, I don't know, maybe it just kind of energized him, gave him hope. Like, some of these people are starting to get it.
Okay, so it ended up being
So
good.
it went well.
When
yeah.
you're saying that, I thought, oh shoot, you blew the water out for the keynote speaker.
No. It went very well. Like just in terms of like, better than my expectations, because it's like, this is not the setting I'm used to. I was like, I could tell I was nervous because for one, I had to kind of like dress up a little bit and I was just not that comfortable. And then like my wife and I were like parking and we're like having to walk to the thing. And I don't know, I might've made a comment about something and I just started getting real uptight, and she's like, you need to calm down, because I'm just like, I'm just not used to this. I knew I should wear a different deodorant. It's like, what time is it? Have I eaten? There's all that mess. Got in my head.
I wear a suit one time a year, and it's at Turning Point's big fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago.
Nice.
And so the first year, thank goodness, by the way, because I don't dress up. Like I'm usually pretty spunky dressed or outfit wise. Pretty colorful. If you didn't know me, you're like, that guy's clearly gay.
Yeah. Like, that guy's a SoCal surfer.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And so I was really excited because I had bought this or I'd ordered this blue kind of shiny suit tuxedo type thing, and I was like pumped about it. And I showed one of the bigwigs over at Turning Point. I was like, check out this cool thing I'm going to wear to Mar-a-Lago. And they said, I kid you not, if you wear that to Mar-a-Lago, you will be fired. Like, no questions asked. Like,
wow.
You can't do that there.
Bad fashion choice.
And that's the thing is, I didn't think so. I was like excited to show somebody else. Thank God I did, by the way, because I wouldn't have brought anything else. But like, it was explained to me as a California person, no, this is an East Coast black tie event. You will wear a suit and a black tie. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize how serious.
Yeah.
And I am just just so uncomfortable in that kind of setting. Yeah. And I
gotta give me a good suit. I gotta go get fitted. Well, first I gotta get into a shape that I'm gonna be like, okay, this is the shape.
That's the shape.
Okay, we're there. And now get fitted, right? You got a baggy ass suit. But I remember back in my rap days, I was in Miami. I used to hang out in Miami a lot, and with Pitbull and his crew. And Pitbull was scheduled to. He was an up and coming artist at the time.
Yeah.
He was scheduled to walk the red carpet for MTV. And he like invited me, like, hey man, you're in the crew, you're an entourage type thing. And it's super humid. It's like August Miami, bro. and he's like, yo, you ready for tomorrow? Da da da. And I think he and I we went down to the mall. He got himself a couple suits, and I'm just like, whatever. I'm just at the food court, like, bro, this is not my thing. And then he's like, yo, you ready for tomorrow? This is after we left the mall because I didn't get anything. And he's like, you got your suit ready? And I was like, no, I'm Chingo Bling. I got my cowboy hat, my grill, my baggy shorts, my boots. And he's like, nah, bro. He's like, we got to wear suits. This is like when he started wearing suits, because he was still like kind of like ghetto hood rapper at the time. Yeah. You know, just like jerseys and whatever, jeans. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get a suit. So it was like one of those last minute things. I found some random overpriced boutique, like Miami, South Beach area, whatever. And I had to hurry up and get it tailored and fitted. It was like all white, some Miami Vice type stuff. It probably not as bad as your blue, your blue sequence you had planned. But like some lady had to like last minute hem it, and I was just very uncomfortable. And yeah,
How based is Pitbull?
you know what, man? I don't really know, but
It seems like he's pretty. He's Cuban.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
you probably don't want to talk about other people's political.
No, but I do want to give him. I gave him props. Like I texted him and everything when the clip went viral, when he was on Drink Champs, and this was I think it was like lockdown was still kind of happening. Okay. Did you see that clip?
The big clip that I remember was him going like, "If you hate this country, get out!" Like on stage.
No, it's a different one. Okay. It's a different one. So he was on Nori and DJ EFN's podcast called Drink Champs, and he's on there. He's probably having a couple drinks with them, and the conversation somehow leads to Pitbull saying, "Yeah, Event 201, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, funded by. They did a whole simulation, and he's like, yeah, pandemic, and da 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 da. He's like, you know who's really pissed? Castro. Castro's like, y'all ushered in communism with no missiles, and I'm just like, go, yes." Yes, I'm like texting them, emailing them, everything. But at the same time, you know, we can't assume. I never talked to him about like political parties or who he votes for and things like that. But I want to say this to all my Cuban friends in Miami. Many of them I still keep in touch with. When I was a young artist 15, 20 years ago, out there hanging out with them, I didn't understand. This might sound crazy to people. The concept of freedom, it was just so like taken for granted. Where it's just like for example, my friend DJ Robin down there in Miami, he was born in Cuba, kind of like grew up. I forget what age he was, but his dad was like on a list with the regime in Cuba, and they thought his dad. I don't know what his dad's career was, but they thought his dad was like a CIA agent or whatever. So anytime my friend Robin would play with his friends on the street in Cuba, like they were always like agents, basically, like kind of looking and following, and they'd go over to play on the next block, and they'd be there. And because his father had like an antenna, he was trying to get news and information from the mainland. And so when Jay-Z wore the Che Guevara shirt on MTV's Unplugged, I thought it was fashionable.
Yeah,
I was like,
cool.
oh, he's revolution.
Yeah, whatever.
He's, these guys are revolutionaries, and it's Jay-Z, he's cool, and whatever. And they were just like, yo, I can't believe that POS, and why would he wear that? And that's so disrespectful. And I was just like, explain to me, like, who are these people, and why is it bad to wear the shirt? Because they sell it at Target, and they're like, they took away our freedom, and they took away stuff from the people that own stuff, and they kicked us out, and we had to leave, and we had no freedom. I was like, but what does that mean though? Like freedom? It's just like, man, and it took the lockdowns for me to finally be like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like. This can't do nothing, can't go nowhere.
I mean, this is September 12th, but after September 11th, I can't remember who it was. It might have been George Will, who immediately after said, America's vacation from reality is over. Immediately after the attacks in 9/11. And obviously what he meant by that is we exist in this insular world where you don't have to deal with the realities that everywhere else on planet Earth has to deal with in terms of like the lack of freedom and the lack of being able to say what you can say, practice the religion you want to practice. And because of that, unfortunately, we're on like a mental vacation where people don't realize how good they have it. And I would say we might have slipped kind of back into that in more recent years of this idea that, oh yeah, things are good, they'll always be good. We'll always be free. We'll always be able to do all these things.
Yeah, a lot of the people that are like anti-Second Amendment or anti-gun or like, you don't need, who needs an AR-15? Like all those people like, oh yeah, well the Second Amendment was written so that you have the right to have a musket. Yeah, your God-given right to a musket, And I just hold my tongue in them comments because it's just like, bro, you don't even know what that was written for, what it was designed for, and when it might come in handy.
There was a meme that I saw of it was a big dam and a pool of water, and it was like the water on top of it was said like the globalists, and then the dam was American gun owners.
Oh, yeah.
And then the bottom was the rest of the world. And like, yeah, that's the Second Amendment in the United States. My friend has a theory. Curious what you think about it. Is he talks about the Second Amendment? Most countries around the world don't have that, and if Australia gets taken, just take for example, gets taken over by a tyrannical force, and their people need help, who's going to help them? Us. And if Canada, same thing happens, who's going to help them? Us. It's always us that ends up being the global world police. But if our government gets tyrannical and takes over the citizenry, who's going to come to our defense?
Not the Canadians.
Nobody. Honestly, if the Canadians, they would make it worse. The Canadians would help the tyrants.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's the
Trudeau.
American gun owner that has a lot of responsibility to bear for the freedom of the entire world to the extent that it exists.
Yeah, I do a joke in my set where it's kind of like it's funny, but it's a pro Second Amendment type of thing. It's got a bunch of act outs and but I preface it like I go into it without getting too preachy, but I'm just like I'm from Texas, my wife and I, we're pro Second Amendment. This is what's standing between evil criminals and my daughters. This size medium, built like an 8th grader, and then I go on to be like, you break into my house, you broke into Juan Wick's house, and I just kind of briefly explain to the audience, like, I said, if y'all don't know which amendment that is, and this is the way I say it, but I know it's not accurate. It's like, you have the right to not be helpless and defenseless if somebody breaks in your house and you got to protect your family. And then I go on to the funny part. But you get a couple like, yeah, woo! There's always about 2 or 3.
That's great, dude. We've been at this for about an hour. I probably got places to go, people to see. But dude, I appreciate it.
Cool, man.
Yeah, man. Anything that you were like, I want to get this on.
Oh yeah, so, like plug.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I am on tour. I'm a stand-up comedian.
Aren't you always on tour though?
Yeah, no. People always ask. People are like, hey, when's the tour over? I was like, look, man, tour is just code for this is my job. It's like, when is the tour over? It doesn't end. But no, you can get your tickets, see what cities and stuff, chingobling.com. We're probably gonna be in your neck of the woods. This year I hit a lot of new places. First time performing like Detroit, Michigan, Louisville, Kentucky, Milwaukee. And so next year, yes, I definitely plan on going back to a lot of those places and more. But yeah, I'm on social media and just, look into it.
Do you do Wednesday to Sunday a lot?
It depends. No, like,
because that's a long time.
No, I don't do Wednesday to Sundays. So there's only like a handful of markets that I do like weekends in.
Got it.
So, yesterday Irvine happened to fall on a Wednesday. I'll talk to my manager about that. But like obviously big markets like Dallas, Houston, El Paso, Phoenix, like more hardcore Chingo Bling markets, I'll do maybe Thursday through Saturday, maybe not try to do a Sunday, stuff like that.
Cool. Well, sweet, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate the insight.
Great to be here.
This is a good time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Next time you're in the area, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, dude, come do these clubs with us. I can't do it on this run because I got a stacked lineup. I got a bunch of people. But next year, for sure, like I want to introduce you to like all the cool comics I roll with. Definitely go get familiar with the staff, and then we'll talk more off air about everything.
I was going to say, yeah, man. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cool.